Hi, I'm Paul from Mira Showers, and in this video we'll be taking you through a step-by-step installation of the Mira Minimal Dual Mixer Shower. Designed for new installations, the installation of the pipework should be completed as part of the first fix of the installation and located at a suitable height for the user to operate the valve ergonomically and allow enough clearance to the ceiling for the overhead deluge. A first fix pipe guide is supplied to help ensure that the pipework is correctly separated to 50mm between the hot and cold supply. The supply pipework should then be secured appropriately depending on the type of wall construction. The supply pipework to the shower must be in 15mm copper. Plastic or barrier pipework is not suitable for this application. Using the installation tool provided or a tape measure, the supply pipework can then be cut back to 19mm from the finished wall surface. Cutting the pipe to size is best done using a pipe slice. Taking care that all external burrs are removed to prevent damage to the valve seals when mounting the valve onto the pipework. The valve backplate can then be offered to the wall and marked up for drilling. Only 2 of the fixing points need be used. A third is provided for extra support depending on the installation requirements. The wall can then be drilled, taking care to avoid the pipework in the wall cavity. The supply pipework can then be siliconed around to prevent water ingress back into the fabric of the wall. The backplate can then be secured into place using the fixings supplied or those more appropriate for the wall material if necessary. Checking that the supply pipework now measures 12.5mm from the backplate surface, the retaining nuts can then be fitted and tightened into place using the installation tool provided. These need only be hand tight. Water supplies should then be flushed before fitting the valve. This prevents debris from blocking the filters or corrosive fluxes causing damage to the valve mechanism or seals. Before locating the valve onto the supply pipework, apply a small amount of grease to the seals, checking the cleanliness of the seals from debris beforehand. The mixing valve can then be located into place by sliding the valve onto the supplies. Hot and cold indicators on the valve indicate the correct orientation to be matched with those on the backplate. The valve can then be secured into place using the 4 retainer bolts supplied. These need only be tightened by hand without the need for power tools. The cover shroud can then be clipped into place, aligning the splines on the valve with those on the shroud housing. The outlet connector can then be secured into place using the installation tool provided. The temperature dial can then be clipped into place, aligning the top of the cartridge with the temperature override button on the dial. The deluge assembly can then be assembled, being sure to include the clamp bracket and hose retaining ring when doing so. The backplate assembly for the riser rail should also be installed temporarily to mark the wall for fixing. This is tightened using the grub screw. Using a spirit level, the deluge assembly can then be held to the wall to locate the fixing points required for the backplate assembly. Take care to fully insert the rail assembly into the valve in order to obtain the correct reference points. The backplate assembly can then be marked, the wall drilled and secured into place using the fixings supplied, or those more appropriate for the wall material if necessary. Using a stud detector will help in avoiding damage to surfaces within the cavity of the wall through drilling. The rail assembly can then be reinserted into the valve. Place the backplate cover on the rear of the rail assembly before securing and clip into place for a flush finish. The riser assembly is then secured into place using the grub screw provided. The deluge assembly is then simply pushed down into place and is designed to pivot to provide flexibility whilst in use. The hose and handset can then be installed, taking care to feed the hose through the retaining ring to comply with water regulations. Flow regulators are supplied for use on high pressure plumbing systems and are installed in between the valve outlets and the hose and in between the deluge and the deluge arm. See our instructions for more details regarding the benefits of installing these. The deluge head can then also be secured and hand tightened to achieve a watertight seal. The water supply can then be reinstated and the shower tested and commissioned. Your Mira Minimal Dual is now ready for use.